What's going on, boxing fans? I'm back here with another video here set for you guys, and I'm just going to cut the chase to it. Alright, Oleksandr Usyk is, for sure, the greatest and honestly best heavyweight boxer we have ever had in the history of boxing. I'm going to give and present my arguments. And yes, there are greats, obviously, before in heavyweight boxing that we can be able to name off. You know, guys like Archie Moore, Larry Holmes, Jersey Joe Walcott, Ken Norton, Floyd Patterson, the Klitschko brothers, Vitaly and Vladimir, Jack Johnson, Sonny Liston, Rocky Marciano, George Foreman, in and out of his prime, coming back, being like 40-something years old, 45 years old, coming back and winning a heavyweight championship. Joe Louis, Mike Tyson, especially in his prime, Lennox Lewis, Evander Holyfield, Joe Frazier, and obviously that's topping the list of the majority of every single person in boxing, historian and Smithsonian, that being Muhammad Ali. All right, so let me present my argument here with this. Oleksandr Usyk started off his career, especially from the amateurs, being in the lower weight class, coming from Ukraine and having that background and style similar to the guys of like Avashdik, of Vasil Lomachenko, who obviously is one of the greatest boxers, even though he has losses, quote unquote losses on his resume. Again, obviously is quantified as one of the greatest boxing fighters of all time. But really starting into his professional career, Oleksandr Usyk started off as a cruiserweight. And in the cruiserweight division, it's kind of like being in a matter of nothingness because there's not a lot of big names, not a lot of money to be able to make. There's nothing that is going to be super enticing. Jumping from the light heavyweight division and going into cruiser, and then you have heavyweight. Usually every smaller cruiserweight jumps into heavyweight. If you're too small for heavyweight and you feel like cruiserweight is not really a division to be able to make money, you kind of drop yourself off to the light heavyweight division. Starting off his career as a light heavyweight, fighting guys and having resumes of guys like Marco Huck. A guy also as well, I didn't put in his first name because I would have butchered it, but Glowacki, a guy that beat Marco Huck, himself, and was on an undefeated record until he met Oleksandr Usyk. And then obviously Michael Hunter, a guy that only had that one loss on his resume, went to a draw with Alexander Poviekin, has been in other big time type of fights in his career and went to draws. And again, the only loss that he has on his resume is a guy like an Oleksandr Usyk. Going into this, and then you have the Muhammad Ali trophy event where they have this tournament to be able to crown the undisputed cruiserweight champion. And he has going against guys like Marius Briedis, who still and is as of right now in his career, giving guys like Jayo Pataya, who is the uncrowned king as of right now in the cruiserweight division, that is running rampant and running wild, and we're ready and waiting for him to be able to make his jump up potentially to the heavyweight division after as soon as he is king and crowned in that cruiserweight division. That's just something that's inevitable. And Marius Briedis, still in his career, later stage in his career, is giving guys like him problems right now, who has been an absolute issue for everybody else in that cruiserweight division beforehand. Guys like Murat Gassiev, who is not really notable as of right now, and not a lot of people know him as terms as a name, but a guy has been training in Big Bear with Gennady Golovkin. And before his loss to Usyk, Murat Gassiev was the dude that was like a boogeyman, like a nightmare. This Russian dude that just hit you with some power shots and he put you out cold. And he was an absolute problem to be able to deal with. A lot of people seeing that matchup with Gassiev versus Usyk going on, and them thinking about, well, Gassiev has this power, he has the boxing technicalities coming from that Russian background as well. Maybe he can be able to put out Usyk. Usyk, that being the technical and more smarter ring acumen type of fighter. And Usyk absolutely blew him out of the water, frustrated him, and outboxed him, and outfoxed him, and outclassed him in every single type of way. In his last matchup, defending his cruiserweight championship, undisputed championship reign against the biggest name possibly in the cruiserweight division, although him being out on his way in his career, but still having a lot of fight on him, him being his retirement fight as well. Tony Bellew knocking him out cold, outfoxing and outboxing him, even though Bellew was having his moments and being frustrating and actually giving some type of problems to Oleksandr Usyk to be able to figure out. And eventually Usyk then figured him out and put him out face cold, as we've seen as it being one of the highlight KOs. And this is just the thing that he's done so far in the cruiserweight division. Again, the names that he's gone against, and you thinking about this as of right now, it's like, it's whatever. Gassiev, this guy, Breedis, don't really know him. Michael Hunter, pretty much journeyman heavyweight fighter. That's Tony Bellew. He retired after that one. He was old, out of his age. He was out of his prime. Listen, these are absolute great names to have on your resume. And again, he started off his career as a cruiserweight. It's hard for him to be able to make that heavyweight division because he has to be able to overeat to actually make the weight, because he's one of the smaller type of guys in terms of his frame and his stature, to all the bigger and more stronger heavyweights. And one of the major plot points and major things that everybody that was talking about Oleksandr Usyk making his way up to the heavyweight division was that he was a great little man. But while him being a great little man, he is going to be going against a great big man. And these big men are going to be out muscling him, bodying him up, probably going to knock him out. Usually that's one of the major sayings in boxing, that a great big man or a good big man beats a great little man just based off the stature, the size, discrepancy, and all these things that he needs to be able to worry about. And that's one of the things that was really taken into consideration after, especially, he got, I believe the guy's name is Witherspoon, who was pretty much just a can for Usyk to be able to really make his debut in the heavyweight division. Then he got a win over Derek Chisora, who even now he claims as one of the harder hitters against him in the heavyweight division that he really had to be able to worry about consistently throughout this entirety of the time. And then finally, he meets Anthony Joshua. Me, myself, everybody else including, everybody thinking with Usyk making this jump up to the heavyweight division, and Anthony Joshua on the streak that he's on, coming back after he already lost to Andy Ruiz, avenged his loss, and trying to be able to make his claim to be able to finally get that matchup against Deontay Wilder. Or now I believe around this time, I think Tyson Fury got a victory over Deontay Wilder. And now Anthony Joshua is trying to be able to put his claim into a big money fight, whether it be against Deontay Wilder or Tyson Fury, and move on to his career. And Oleksandr Usyk was one of those stepping stones that he needed to be able to get over his career to be able to move forward. And the majority of the people, especially with thinking of this fight and matchup happening, everybody's thinking that Anthony Joshua is going to be able to get over Oleksandr Usyk, because again, we get that good big man versus that great little man type of scenario. And boy, did we get the antithesis of that. Obviously, we know that Oleksandr Usyk, technical-wise, skill-wise, is a better boxer than Anthony Joshua, but the power, was he able to evade it? Was he able to get away from it? And technically, Anthony Joshua, in terms of heavyweight, he's a pretty good boxer. He's above average. He's not that bad. He's actually okay in terms of all the weight that he's carrying on as well. And again, another thing that a lot of people that are going to be talking about is all these bigger dudes are going to be out muscling him. They're going to be able to push him around. They're able to just drain and wear on him. And Oleksandr Usyk makes Anthony Joshua look like an absolute fool through the entirety of that first fight. Going into the rematch and the second fight with Anthony Joshua. Joshua in with the new trainer, I believe Robert Garcia was his new trainer, but he only had him for that one fight. Then after that, and coming into this one, and we're thinking Joshua has in the headspace. We already seen what he did in the rematch against Andy Ruiz, where he put him out there and outboxed him and outclassed him in that one. We already seen AJ in a rematch, and we're thinking that he's going to be able to get that return against Oleksandr Usyk, which was a very, very close fight between these two guys. And then towards the 8th, 9th, middle round, it seems like this tide is starting to turn to Anthony Joshua's way. The body shots, the head shots, the combinations. Usyk seems to be rattled and wobbled and hurt. He's moving all over the place. But the championship heart, the determination that Oleksandr Usyk is just on another level. comes back in the next round after getting dominated by Anthony Joshua and completely puts it on Anthony Joshua. Very close and competitive fight, but obviously Oleksandr Usyk is making his way into being a now unified heavyweight champion and having 2 wins over a big name on the decline of Anthony Joshua, but still sort of in his prime Anthony Joshua. Whereas of right now, he's an off the KO loss to Daniel Dubois, and he's lost beforehand a few times. And Anthony Joshua doesn't have that same type of luster, even though he is still a big name in the heavyweight division as of right now. This is Anthony Joshua only losing to Andy Ruiz on a surprise matchup, late replacement that he was supposed to go against Jarrell Miller, and now he's going against Oleksandr Usyk, and we're thinking in the rematch this time that he's going to be able to get something done, and he's showing that he's actually dominating and having a great round against Usyk, and now Usyk turns the tide against Joshua and finishes out the fight and actually gets on top of him. Then you get into the first fight of Daniel Dubois, where there was a lot of talk with him and Tyson Fury. Tyson Fury was the only guy now holding that other belt in the heavyweight division to be able to unify this division already, something that Oleksandr Usyk already has done, but in the cruiserweight division, and hasn't been able to do it in the big boy major mainstay division, that being the heavyweight division. So in terms of not getting these contracts and fights to be able to go on forward with Fury, because Fury's talking about, I want 70-30, I'm not going to do 50-50, you're not a draw in England, yada yada yada, all these other things. We get the fight with Daniel Dubois. Dubois is not the fighter that he was as of recently in this second loss that he just had as of right now with Oleksandr Usyk. And Dubois, still having the power, still being kind of a quote-unquote prospect as of right now, being the fighter that he is and all this stuff, yada, yada, yada. Daniel Dubois gets knocked out, but he has a moment where it's kind of a low blow, kind of controversy, kind of on the belt line, kind of a body shot. We don't really know, but it obviously hurts Oleksandr Usyk. So there's definitely some questions and some things. Obviously, beforehand, we've seen in the Joshua fight as well that he has a tendency of getting hurt to the body as well. He has a little bit of lapses in there, can be able to zap his energy, but again, the heart of the determination of Oleksandr Usyk drops Daniel Dubois with a jab and gets a KO victory over Daniel Dubois, where seemingly that's kind of like nothing, but that's as of right now. And then we go into the 2 fights with Tyson Fury. Tyson Fury having wins over one of the best, longest reigning heavyweight champions, Vladimir Klitschko, who was having like an 11-year run of this heavyweight division where nobody was able to get over him. He really was the ruling emperor of the heavyweight division for so long. Tyson Fury unseated him. He got finally the first win on Vladimir Klitschko, and again, like 11 years. After he does that, goes off the rails, comes back, has a couple of tune-up fights, goes into with Deontay Wilder, gets a draw where he got dropped into the last round, but obviously besides that round, every other round, Tyson Fury was doing his job, doing his thing, and was winning winning the fight just in general, but still they gave it a draw anyways, whatever, boxing politics 101. Second fight knocks out Deontay Wilder. Third fight is absolute war. Both guys get dropped a few times, and then eventually Tyson Fury ends the job off getting that knockout victory. And then in turn, before having these Fury fights, that being Oleksandr Usyk, some stay busy fights with Chisora, Dillian White, fights that were not really much to be able to say, but just stay busy fights to be able to keep reigning as a WBC heavyweight champion. And me also thinking as well, this happening before with Anthony Joshua, I'm thinking Tyson Fury is one of the better on the ranking heavyweights in the world all time. While a lot of other people don't think that, I do think that Tyson Fury gives a lot of problems, gives a lot of issues, is a tremendous boxer at his size and his reach, doesn't have a lot of power in his hands, but now with working with the Kronk Gym and being under the stewardess of Emmanuel Stewart's, I believe, nephew, he's a different fighter, comes in forward, lands harder and stronger shots, knocks out a dude in Deontay Wilder, who is not in the great pantheon of heavyweights, but has a lot of KOs, was a long-reigning WBC champion, has wins over guys like Luis Ortiz, who is a great boxer, heavyweight boxer in his name. And winning that trilogy out and really tough in pursuing and doing all these things that a lot of other fighters, possibly, AJ and all the other mainstays in the heavyweight division were really not trying to be able to get that kind of smoke with Deontay Wilder, because Deontay Wilder in his prime, his right hand was on another realm, dude. Now, Fury, Usyk. But you get the two fights. First fight, very, very close. I'm thinking Fury, beforehand, before these fights got on, I'm thinking Fury is probably going to be able to get this done. He is the bigger man. He has a longer reach. He is the bigger dude. He's going to be wearing on Usyk. He's probably going to have. They both are similar in terms of their skill and technical acumen. I just think that, again, goes back to the story earlier, that the bigger good man or great man is going to beat the great little man. And again, twice I was shown and proven wrong. Usyk gets the job done against Tyson Fury, which in those two fights were the closest that I think Oleksandr Usyk has ever had in his career. And it could really go either way. If you're looking at it at one way, Usyk, having those two fights, and especially that first one being it so close and it being back and forth, I only think, especially it being Tyson Fury, can be the only guy realistically, whether it be technical skill acumen or just boxing wise, can be able to defeat Oleksandr Usyk, because I think he can be able to match his skill, bar for bar. But it just so happens to have that Fury and his gas tank isn't up to the par of Oleksandr Usyk, where Usyk had Fury hurt in the first fight with that overhand left right on the butt and had him wobbling all over the place. And shout out to Fury, because he showed his recovery, showings again, where he's just showing off as much as he can be able to do. And it really just shows a lot of testament of what these guys are able to go through. And again, the smaller guy is doing this to the big dude, who everybody is thinking that is probably going to get his way and bully the smaller dude, because usually that's what always happens in these type of fights. Second one, another close and competitive one where it could really go either way. I think that Usyk did pull off the victory against Fury, but again, another very close and competitive fight between these two guys. And then we get the matchup now of Daniel Dubois versus Oleksandr Usyk. And Usyk is, streaking, coming off the two fights against Fury. And you have Daniel Dubois just in another realm as of right now, just on another stratosphere, on a 3-fight win streak, getting that late round TKO victory over Jarrell Miller in that late fight that they had against each other, then getting the win over the other prospect heavyweight fighter that I'm running out of his name as of right now, but getting a win over him because the other heavyweight fighter actually thought that he was going to be able to get the victory over him, who had a very close fight against Yilei Zhang. I'm really losing his name as of right now, but whatever. And then also as well getting the TKO KO finish where he flattens out Anthony Joshua out cold. Dubois has found his momentum. He's found himself as a fighter. Has found his confidence as well. He's moving. He's looking and fighting a lot like damn near Mike Tyson in his prime, just completely bulldozing and marauding forward and just running straight forward like nothing is to be able to worry about what's coming his way. And Oleksandr Usyk just shuts it down, negates it, does what he needs to be able to do. From there, I can be able to see I don't think Tyson has a chance. Any type of, moving on forward, slow plotting type of boxers that don't really have that type of acumen, that just has and relying is, yes, they have some boxing skill, but their power, like a Ken Norton or an Archie Moore. Joe Frazier, is just walking around forward and just winging all these hooks. I don't think he has a chance against Usyk. Maybe a guy that has some type of, vet power, like another cruiserweight that coming up, like an Evander Holyfield. Holyfield has, great skill, has good speed for the heavyweight division, and as well can be able to match pace for pace with Oleksandr Usyk. But I just think in that southpaw stance, Usyk with his angles and his footwork and just being able to just completely override Holyfield, I think Holyfield gets out of there. Same thing with Larry Holmes, Jersey Joe Walcott. I mean, Floyd Patterson I think is way too small for Usyk. Same thing with Joe Louis. I mean, Rocky Marciano, he's had his battles and his wars. I don't think he's ever fought anybody alike. a Oleksandr Usyk, maybe a Lennox Lewis with his style and his presence and his reach. He can be able to evade and try to be able to move away from the, type of aspect that Usyk is trying to be able to move forward with. But I think eventually Usyk is just going to have his way with Lennox Lewis. If he's doing that to Fury, if he's doing that to AJ, if he's doing that to Dubois, I'm pretty sure he can be able to do it to all these type of guys. And then obviously the biggest name, that being Muhammad Ali. I mean, man, the resume just speaks for himself. Not a lot in terms of quantity, but the quality is just top tier. I'm not saying Joshua or Dubois or Fury are these like insane, crazy, high level, in top of their prime heavyweights like the other ilks that I've named beforehand, but they are definitely on the better side in terms of this present generation of heavyweight boxers that I do think can be able to defeat some of those names and can give a lot of problems to the other ones that they don't defeat as well. It could really go either way, and especially with the Tyson Fury fight wins. I mean, Tyson Fury, I think, is up there. I think he's top 10, possibly top 5 heavyweight all time. That's how much I highly rate Tyson Fury because just his skill, his technicality at his size, at his weight, him being able to use his frame, him being able to wear down on you, use his power shots, and eventually get you out of there, or just keep it skilled and keep it boxing and keep it cool and composed and be able to move around the ring and do the things that he usually does. Tyson Fury is a damn problem to be able to deal with, and Oleksandr Usyk went bar for bar with him and actually outdid him. He outdid him. The smaller man, the smaller statue, going against these absolute monsters in the heavyweight division is just completely outdoing them, outpacing them, running circles around them, making them look like fools, and doing it against dudes that are heavy, heavy hitters like a Anthony Joshua, like a Derek Chisora, like a Daniel Dubois, and against one of, I think, the all-time greatest heavyweights of all time, Tyson Fury. Yeah, I mean, I don't think it is an argument. I really don't think so. While, obviously, pastimes, history, and nostalgia, and all these things can be able to cloud our brains and our images. Obviously, I know that these other heavyweights that I've named beforehand in previous history, in their primes and their respective generations, are obviously one of the best heavyweights of all time as well. But I just think Oleksandr Usyk, with this new gen, with going against all these fighters that are now prepared as well as they can be able to do, and going into different lengths of where they can be able to get to in their careers with all the technology and advances that they have at their disposal, and as well just being overall more well-rounded boxers and fighters in general. Oleksandr Usyk is the crowned king, and that being 2 times over in the heavyweight division and once in the cruiserweight. So he's a three-time. This is unprecedented times where usually beforehand to be able to get an undisputed champion in a weight division, it was crazy to be able to see for a long time in boxing. And he's done it recently 3 times. He's a 3-time undisputed champion in boxing, once in cruiserweight, twice in heavyweight, at his size and stature, at his age as well, at 38 years old, still going, still pushing. And then possibly getting the order of Joseph Parker, who himself, as of right now, if he adds him on his resume, who he is on like a 5-5 win streak, and he's now starting to be able to get his momentum and mojo going as well as a Daniel Dubois, where he's having some power shots landing on some other big heavy hitters as well, where Joseph Parker is more known as a boxer type of fighter, where he's using his skill, he's trying to be able to outfox you and outdo you. I mean, this just stacks up more and more and more in my favor, and where really believe it going. Oleksandr Usyk, in my opinion, is the greatest heavyweight we have ever seen in our entire lives, and I think we should rejoice and embrace and cherish every single time we see him fighting ever again in his career. Obviously, like this video if you obviously like this video. Comment your opinions on what you think about Oleksandr Usyk and how he stacks up on this heavyweight, crown king thing, where you have these other heavyweights that are great names and they've gone along in their generations and in their primes they're one of the best of all time. But I just think Usyk is a step ahead. And subscribe. If you're a boxing fan and you're here and you want to be able to see more chatter, more talk like this, and more videos like this as well on this channel, then stay tuned. Because, yeah, I got it for you. I know bangers. I know bangers. Thank you guys again for watching again, and peace.